So, Mac, I didn't get the comment of Kyle.
Ang
Uh,
comment ko actually, just to
Summary.
recap, ito.
Wala, may
Yan.
notes.
Nagbabasa ko. Kala nyo, lahat yan hanggang sa isa. Kala
Pwede
nyo,
pa
lagi
saan, di ba?
mag-notes. Lagi kayo
Biglang ganun,
mag-notes
no?
pagka ano.
Kasi
Even
it will
pagka,
also verify it next week.
hindi, maski yung pagka nagbibigay ng feedback, minsan kasi pagka habang nagdo-notes ka, biglang may idea na papasok sa'yo, hindi mo naman ibabot in na meron kang gusto sabihin. So, ilalagay mo na lang sa notes, what if ganito yung gawin ko.
Ang
Di ba,
dami na
ganun.
if,
So,
di
pagka
ba?
gagawa ka na sa susunod, meron ka ng list na pwede mong pag-isipan.
Ang daming
Pagka
trees.
ha? Sorry?
Ang daming trees si Bihar na naglalagin.
Okay.
Pang 8 trees si Bihar na yung naglagin.
Ang dami.
Share
Anyway,
screen mo ka, sir.
yung sinabi ko kay sorry, ano ni Mar? Mar ba tawag
Mac.
sa'yo? Mac.
MAC.
Mac. Saan galing yun? Sabi kay Mac, sabi ko yung site niya na picture, screenshot lang yun eh, ginanon ko siya. Sabi, screenshot. Kaso sabi ko, ang ganda nung quality nung section niya, sobrang favorite ko yung section na yun. Yung may mga texture nung GI, tapos may mga nakahang pa ng mga lights, tapos maraming entourage, tapos ang ganda pa ng mga texture ng mga
I got
ibang
that part.
entourage nandun. Tapos pinakita niya pa yung overall, it's so nice. Nasabi ko sana yung site mo ganyan din yung quality, yun yung sinabi ko. Anyway, kaya niya naman yun. Tapos kinuwento ko yun dun sa maganda yung light carving niya and a bit of the wood carving. Kaso nagbigay ako ng idea on the wind carving. Parang inaano ko yung Venturi effect. Tapos kinuwento ko paano yung Venturi effect, how it works. So mga ganong ideas lang and even how you can play with light and how it can flood a space para sa experience. Yan. And then the other one, yung sami plant niya na pandan,
Yung nakahang.
yung sabi ko he has to have yung concern is more on the yield. I don't know if you would allow and then if yung computed yield niya per 3 months is not enough na pwede siya magpasok ng ibang pandan plant artificially, pandan leaf artificially to be able to create his output of weaving if that is the direction that he wants to go to. And then sabi ko rin, yung pinoint out ko din yung process like merong drying, merong hanging na part, ganon na it can be part of the architecture definitely, na those are the things that you really look into certain process of the architecture that you would have. Yeah, yung sa plant mo, you look into it and then yung mga ganong certain things that you could just use as an ingredient for the architecture. So for example, hanging, okay, you don't just really just hang it around, but what if it's part of the elevation where you're hanging it? Pagka nawala yan, natuyo yan, nag-iiba yung elevation mo. Parang ganun yung different idea of how parang medyo nagigets I think nila yung idea na part ng processes with the plant that's also affecting the entire architecture kasi yun yung mas on the I wouldn't say literal sense, yun yung mas applied sense of the hanging into the architecture, di ba? And actually yung ganon, isang sheet pa lang yun ng isang sheet pa lang yun ng ideas namin sa presentation kay Sir Jim yan. Kaso dadayain namin yun, may sheet of the idea, tapos gagawa kami ng model, o 3 sheets total na yun.
It shouldn't be like that because it's all about the generation of ideas. So you're really not doing yourself justice if you're going to cheat.
Literal na shit, ano?
Yeah.
Yung
Kasi
binilang.
yung ganun mo ma-generate yung ideas from the research kaya
Kasi
hindi actually
ako
yun
lang
yung
naman,
ginagawa mo, hinahanap mo yung ideas sa research. You're not really just researching for the sake na meron kang background about the thing.
and
But
the
it's
reason why
really
ano lang what they call it, the equivalence of the sheets and the model because of compassion. Pero that's about it. Pero I don't think it's also helpful.
mm, ayun. Anyway, yun yung feedback ko. Tapos mga wind scoop, mga ganun lang. Ayan.
Okay. So I guess those keep in mind those comments by Mac, by Kyle. But siguro my concern is how you can bridge like similar comment. Um, Sino ba yung last guy?
Aaron? Joke
Yeah,
naman. Si
Aaron.
ano?
Like how you
Si
can connect all of these
yeah.
ideas together to inform architecture.
Mm.
I keep telling everyone, my students, especially the thesis ones, when you have an idea or a theory for that matter, or a research material, always look for, excuse me, visual cues. Like, how is this material providing you something visual that will translate into something physical later on? That's why I gave an example before, the work of Kirsten when she was talking about coconut trees and the distances of the coconut trees and the kind of spacing that you need to have that and the pattern that will create as a plan that is visual. So you need to be very conscious of that as well. So yeah, and then if it's going to be about the pandan, pandan, is it pandan? Is it a pandan
Yes,
species?
sir.
Okay.
Pero,
So and then you were talking about the products. I think that's a promising aspect of your research, the product. That's why I remember reminding everyone about knowing the yield of the produce that it can generate at a given time, because it's so easy to say that our building is all about food production. Our building can produce this much food, but in reality, you need to wait before you can actually uh, you can actually eat them. Do you get it? For instance, a single tomato, to be honest, I'm not really familiar. So it's very ambitious to say that having a small garden can feed you, you know, can provide you your food, your daily food. So it's the same thing when it comes to products. This plant species will generate. Be conscious of the supply and the harvest time, and the methods of how you can propagate it. Okay, so that's why our topics are all about propagation, so that we can maximize the yield as well. So and I think I overheard Kyle talking about the program of the wet market area, and if you introduce another program, how they play together later on, how they're going, what will be the relationship of these two programs later on, because those qualities of spaces can be an issue, because a wet market feels dirty, it's crowded, etc. So if you will introduce another program, you need to take that into consideration. All right? Okay? Sige. Let's go to Mark. Because Mark is excited already. He's been messaging me
kanina pa yan, no?
like actually he was already cussing. Sabi niya, can you hurry up?
Hindi ah.
I'm getting
Hindi ah.
impatient. Tapos may mura. Hindi, wala. Walang ganun.
May pa-mic siya,
Ay,
sir.
yung
Dinay
may
na.
share lang ako dun sa may data na very important.
Kasi,
Nung bago mag-revalida sa amin no ArcDes 9, tinanong ako, gaano kadami ba ng material yung available para gamitin mo sa architecture? Tapos wala akong mahanap. Tapos alam mo yung ginawa ko, binago ko yung topic ko. Ayun, effective naman. So important siya sobra. Ayun, kung kaya niyo ibago yung book nyo at palitan nyo within a few weeks, go. Kasi yun yung isang ginawa ko. So, share lang on that date. Very important yun, lalo na pagka nagiging paper na. Ayan. Anyway.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, sir.
Mark is getting angry na eh.
Hindi, may
Wala.
baka,
alam mo lang.
okay. Kita ba? Okay. So,
Wow.
wait lang, hindi ito yung una.
May team saging tayo dito ah.
Yeah. Gulat nga ako may same.
Where the others? Sila Leia, sila ano. Umalis na.
Baka nagdi-din. Ay, hindi ako sure. Feel ko, sir. Feel ko.
Ha?
Feel ko umalis na.
Okay.
Wala na eh. Sino masyado natakot sa inyo?
I said yes nga to the request eh. Sila yung nag-request if they can present next week eh. Sige, go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So hello. This is my section. It's quite long, so I wanted to focus on what's there and what's happening.
Okay.
Uh,
Can you
this
zoom in?
this is Grace Village, and it's in Quezon City. So what we have here is the village. Can you guys see my pointer?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Grace Village, and this is the village gate. So when you drive forward, you will see on the left there's a parking area. It's an open field, but it's used as a parking area, and that's where my new site is. So as you drive along, you will see an ongoing construction building, which is going to be the school's sports complex. So right there, I already have my community, which is the athletes. And as we drive along further again, it's the old Grace Gymnasium. So it's really athletes, my community. So that's my section. And next, so it's athletes. Next. Wait lang. So, next, this is why I chose banana plant because this is what we eat after training when I was in track and field, and it's really helpful for the health. It's why I chose bananas, and it has a lot of other benefits for the health, but we won't talk about that. And right here, I chose dwarf Cavendish banana tree rather than the actual tree because it's easier to use. It's smaller. It's good. You can put it indoor, outdoor. And what's good about this is the yield after this grows. A new feudal stem will grow, and that's like called the baby pseudo stem, and you can have another yield after 9 months. So you can have a continuous fruit yield with dwarf Cavendish banana tree.
How often?
And
Sorry.
uh,
How often is the yield? Like how many?
after 9 months, sir, the tree dies and the baby regrows. So
Uh,
eto, sir, ito yung tree, di ba? Tapos ito, may baby. So ito naman yung mag-grow after nun. So parang, ayun, hindi mo na kailangan
Ah,
mag-plant ng
talaga ang banana tree.
yeah. So,
It's a grass daw. Joke.
yeah, it's not a tree. Ano siya herb na may false stem and nagiging weak din siya pag strong winds. So, that's what I want to talk about next, yung sa sun and wind niya. I find it really interesting kasi it negates what I usually do with sun carving and wind circulation. Sa sun, it actually accepts harsh heat, and ayun, I don't need to cover the harsh sun. I just need to place this strategically. And with the wind, it doesn't really like wind kasi it has a weak stem. It doesn't need strong winds to blow into it because it might break. The pseudo stem might break. So next, so for my solar carving, this is quite independent from that. So I watched Sir Jim's Art This One video and I tried learning it and I applied it here. So I chose this rectangular box first. The massing is for 4 floors because I need to get the wind from above. And this is summer solstice, 12 o'clock, and the other one is 16, 4 p.m. And this is the altitude, azimuth, and right there is the face that I created with the right angle to obtain maintain the maximum exposure of the sun. And okay, hindi nagne-next. Ay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So this is what it. This is the result. Two planes. I combined them together and but di nagdi-next. Ayun. So ganito na lang. So I put them together and I connected all the points together to create the form. Uh, Next is the wind circulation. About the wind, as I've said earlier, it doesn't really, my plant doesn't really like it. So what if I um, negated amihan and habagat? And this is why the section is here. It's northwest and ano ba yan? Southeast na ano na open space, and that's what defined my opening there. And for future programs, if I were to decide that I was going to place other programs here, like adding other plants, I can still use the amihan and the habagat from the opening from one end to the other, or the venturi. And for the site massing, this is my model. This is north. My model is in the middle. This is 1:100 scale. This is west. As we can see here, wait, yung sa north na lang. Yung sa north, uh, the reason why I did the 4 floors because it was the wind was being blocked by this 5-story here, and that's why I wanted to have this here. So para may wind na pumasok manggagaling sa taas, and that's why pababa siya and cold air goes down. So that's, I think that's okay. So this is west, east, south, and this is my photo documentation using a flashlight with the lights closed. This is the 8:50 morning sun and papuntang 9 o'clock, which is the start of the harsh. So for my future programs, I think this would be very nice. And this is the second one, 12 o'clock summer solstice. This is when this is based on the no winds from the plant, and I can strategically put levels here on these slanted areas and place the trees there, and it would get the full exposure from the sun because it needs full exposure, full sun exposure. Yeah, and this is the 4 o'clock. um yeah, so that's it. Thanks.
Okay. So, like I said earlier, when it comes to the side carving, it's good that you have a basis later on, but don't fall in love with it yet because a
Yeah.
lot of things can still change. I think the site model is good. Maybe you just need to work on the what do you call that, the creative research further,
Yes,
because
sir.
we need to see more potential. We need to see
Yes, sir.
more potential for direction because right now what we have are just facts. We haven't really you haven't really gone to the next stage wherein exploring some ideas, getting
Yes.
visual cues
Yeah.
for from the research so that you can inform an architectural product. And I don't think you have scratched that surface yet. So you have 1 week to sort of develop that.
I
Um,
actually also think ano um you can find probable possible directions for you, and then you can start developing even yung ideas of architecture with it. Wag mo nang intayan na sabihin na, oh, this idea is good for the architecture. Parang pangunahan mo na. And at least if sabihin natin mali yung direction na nakuha mo and then you have an idea, at least it can also be critiqued na, oh, the application of your idea from the idea into somewhat an element of architecture is a good direction, di ba? Even though mali yung precursor step, but at least natatry mo na i-convert into architecture yung ideas na meron. And then I like this carving, yung yung nag-react siya sa site, nag-react siya dun sa may nearby building, it's very simple looking form and looks like talagang dahil sa position ng building, sumasalo ng hangin, parang mukhang presko, yung mga ganun. So I
Right.
think na-achieve niya yung gusto niyang gawin
And
dito sa
to
may,
ano rin, to he was also thinking of the banana plant.
yeah,
Uh,
for protecting. And that was actually yung isang architectural idea na yung idea mo from the facts about the banana plant. And it will be, I know later, be pushed further pa. But what you were doing on that is somewhat what is being asked dito sa may It's just sa may studio. It's just that kulang pa yung ideas na, yung amount of ideas that you have. It was just one idea. You multiply it by several times and you apply it several times over and they go overlap and melt with each other to create one unique piece of architecture. Ganon yun mangyayari later on in the process. So, yan. You'll get there.
okay, this is for everyone, like a mini pep talk. Like I think I've been saying over and over that you need to immerse. It's okay to make mistakes, and you need to try to produce something even though you are unsure, and that's the only way you can learn. Okay, so let's go to Tracy. Nag-IG story na si Tracy.
Huh? Hello there.
Nag-IG story ka na eh. Hindi ka na makapaghintay mag-present.
Doon na siya
Diba?
nag-present.
Why not? Anyways,
Yeah,
IG
sige,
na.
go ahead. I'll just
I am a
get some hot water, okay?
Huwag lang mag-miss. Lahat napapansin.
like share so that every time I switch, it's gonna
Hindi
follow.
pa nakashare.
Ha?
Hindi pa nakashare.
Hindi ko pa na-share. Okay.
Ayan, na-share na kaso naglo-load pa. At ayan.
Like, shucks. Ouch. My foot. Ay, nabagsak. Wala kasi sa-
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, sir. So, can you see my screen?
Kita
Okay,
760
so
square meters.
I'm just showing some of my old plates last week. Pero, yeah, context lang of the site. So this is a residential area. This is the total area of the empty lot. Pero yung binigay ni sir dapat 500 square meters. The area I chose is on the right side because the accessibility of yung mga trees, I don't want to break it down. So, para hindi masira din. Um, not that one. Where is it? The trees available in the area is um sorry, this side pictures. Ayan, nawala. Okay, so this in the site there's a very huge canopy with the acacia tree and the fire tree. So I wanted to preserve that within the site. And if you could see in my site model, I tried replicating it with whatever twig branches I could find. And it was on a sloping topography. So there were different angles. And then yeah, that's the close-up. This one is my site um my site section. So it all kind of looks alike because the area where I live, my house kasi is just this one here, and all the houses here are almost all are model houses. Kaya halos lahat kamukha siya. And the narrative that I wanted to portray, since this is just a site section, wala pa yung building, I just kept it very plain and simple. My focus around is like the birds and the trees. So kaya there's some silhouette there. People don't really come in this area. The site section I chose was in the longitudinal side of this. So you cannot see any of the cars or anything because it's kind of like in a small cul-de-sac kind of location. Uh, Kaya medyo plain siya. And then when I went into my uh, sun and wind carving, so this is the block of the massing, and this is one of the angles of the carving. So in here, as you can see, um, this is where it faces the north, where it faces in respect where you are with the compass. So if you look back into this wind diagram, so the northeast wind or yung amihan, this is the best location where malamig talaga. Since my room is legit just here, I see the site every day, and I could tell you guys the wind is really even if there's kind of like obstructions of the houses, it will come through. So in this model, I'll try to get my actual model in camera. Uh, in this model, um I tried to make sure because the location of the model where it's opening, this one is the east the east opening, so it's around here. Since it's I measured the height of the buildings, it's about 8 meters. I tried so baliktad dito pala. So regardless, even if I open this entire section, the wind, the sun won't really penetrate very deep because the shadow of the building next to it, since it's very enclosed, it's quite of an optimal location kahit yung western side kasi ang dami niyang trees. So in general, this area is very well shaded, and I made the roof form sloping towards the southern side. So it's mostly closed. If you look at my model, it's mostly closed so that the southern look the sun doesn't come into the facade, and the window openings in this area is kind of at the bottom instead of showing having the window openings a little bit higher yung usual na may I forgot maybe point 7 a little bit higher. um that's the usual window, so I opted to make it at the bottom and have a courtyard in the middle so that allow more ventilation to come through. There's a lot of stacking effect that comes through with this model. And yeah, I wasn't able to show how the wind is able to process through. Pero ayun, yeah, that's how I generally carve the model. And then when it comes to the research, one of my very first sheets was actually my observations on birds since last week. Because when I was visiting the site or kahit just looking at my window and going to the actual site, ang daming mga birds. So over time, I've been like whenever I just eat my breakfast or lunch and then I just see birds. Um, Different kinds of varieties na I didn't notice way back until I um learn to observe more. So the bird that I'm gonna be focusing on the most is the black nape oriole, the one in the very right, the yellow one here. So these are just sound waves that I got in from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So I just wanted to show that, each bird has a different tone, like how they their songs. It's actually very therapeutic. So it's shown, like studies shown that it contributes to attention restoration and stress recovery. So I wanted to highlight that in the site. So one of the ways to get, birds into your site is the food, the source of food, and besides the shade, it's already clearly shown that this area is well shaded. It has a very big canopy, so many birds hang out there, and I want to keep that integrity of the site. So I went on studying a little bit on one of the species, which is very abundant locally, is Siling labuyo. So this is the general dimensions that Sili labuyo has. Nawala yung medyo manipis dito. But the height is it's not very tall, so it's about zero point 0.8 to 1.5 meters when it grows at its maximum. And usually this kind of plant, pwede ka mag-pot na lang, tapos lagay mo wherever you want. So it's very convenient, and it's well, it's native to the Philippines. That makes it even easier. And we always somehow like consuming this within our tinola and other spices. So as you can see, wait, where's the next sheet? So this is the process of how a sili labuyo grows out. It's usually in a span of 25 weeks. So there's always the start, the germination, the seed emergence. In these first two stages, you could put it in a small plant bed. So let the baby plant grow, and then about maybe 5 to 15 weeks between that, you have to plant it on a huge container. I think from what I remember, it's as long as it could reach the roots na 20 cm, okay na yan. That's already the deepest, one of the deepest. Um, that's how deep it goes na talaga. So it's very friendly, very easy to bring to a community. And in the reproductive stage, this is very crucial because this is the part before it has that siling labuyo that we love eating. It's actually coming from like the flower. So from a flower, it becomes the chili that we know and love. And actually, fun fact lang, I just want to put in. Um, if you know the Scoville rate, I'm not so sure how to pronounce it. It's basically how spicy it is. It's around in the 100,000, 80 to 100,000 scale. And at one point, siya then became one of the spiciest peppers in the world. Nung, I don't know when, but it was recorded in Guinness Book of World Records. But that was before other peppers came in. Nasa 1 million yata. So this is still relatively high in the scale. And then so I went from there. I went on searching a couple of things about birds because I wanted to find an intersection of the two. And apparently, like more application architecture, apparently the new birds has a different way of seeing. So we perceive colors more of like in three wavelengths in the visible light spectrum. Because beyond, infrared and UV rays, you don't really see it. But birds, interestingly, besides having four spectrums, they see UV light. And I read a couple of studies that I haven't shown in this in my research sheets. Well, in general, city birds, especially areas high skyscrapers, many birds die because of reflection. Na kawawa naman yung mga birds because of the glass reflection they thought the sky. Because according to another research that I found that birds kind of have terrible depth perception. So because of their binocular view is very limited. Unlike us, we have a very wide binocular view, which is about 114, and then a monocular view is like the extent of which one eye can see. So compared to that, the birds has better peripheral vision but terrible depth perception. And there were studies that also showed that ways that new architectural technology that uses UV screenings, like some dots or patterns, to make sure that the birds doesn't hit the window or something. But more with that application, because it's more of skyscrapers, but also can be applied in residential architecture, especially if sobrang laki ng windows. If I want birds to come in, I don't want them dying and splattering. um, so these are some um fun sheets that I thought of. Like, what if instead of just breezily, how can I put it, like breezily bird box, a bird house and a plant box to invite the birds to come in. So obviously it's not yet to scale yet, but this is just like a developing idea, because apparently birds also there are reasons why birds the likes those nooks and crannies, because it's about their um like how big or small they are. So baka for a different species, they kind of like smaller, cozier parts. And according to a site din na kailangan elevated, the birdhouse should be elevated more or less 2 meters, or else the cats can, kakain nila. So that's why birds tend to stay up in canopies, or hiding within the roofs of residential buildings. So instead of encouraging them yung nasa nooks and crannies that we don't want, yung mga aircon, and then and the roof. I have a bird in my aircon, so I kind of feel concerned na besides baka I'm being because there's also some transmitted transmitted diseases if you inhale like a bird's feces or something, according to a study I read. So medyo both of us are in danger na there's a bird in the aircon and I'm breathing it. So I wanted to encourage birds to go to a different area of a house or a residential area. So these sheets were these were from my previous researches. I just previous art desk, pero because it's still plantito plantito. This is more of an exploration of like a visual exploration of where to put, greeneries. It could be on the roof, it could be on the walls, it could be elevated. You could actually create ano yan, yung mga uh, courtyards. So yeah, these were general explorations, and then this was actually an exploration on a greenhouse within a house. Actually, a house within a greenhouse. Baliktad pala. So there was actually a case study that I saw. Well, more of like a TV show. A TV show I watched in Apple TV one time. That was ginawa nila. It's doable, pero ayun. More of form explorations. This one is about vertical hydroponic system, because apparently with Sili Labuyo, you could yield about in a hectare is 2 to 2.5 tons of red Sili Labuyo, or in general lang. This is generally of how chilies. It's not really specific to Sili Labuyo, but chilies in general. But yeah, I calculated the area kanina um to make it more scalable to the site. So let's assume 500 square meters. If the entire site wala pang bahay. About 125 kilos of Sili Labuyo can be yielded in a year. So since may tatayuan, you could use water living wall hydroponic system to use more area vertically, because it doesn't uh take as much walkable space. So ayun, and then these are some sections, and then like technical drawings that I found, and yeah, that's it.
Nahanap mo,
Well,
hindi ko yung nag-drawing nung
oh, yung drawing.
yeah.
Okay. So I just got
Isa
it
mo the
online.
other one, yan. Yung, alin yung dinawing mo, alin yung, eto,
Oh,
dinawing mo yung every,
this one I got got online. This one I saw it on a plan online. Tapos inayos ko lang so that I could study it further. So
Okay. Okay.
these are actually sourced by this one biotecture by retrieved from this link. So this
Okay.
is very this has been proven and used. Ayun. So I wanted to see
Mm.
the point of my typology is mostly just to invite birds rather than using it as a commodity to always, because like Sir Jim mentioned, hindi lagi mag-yield ka ng chilies. There's always gonna be a season. And
What's the
mostly
relationship? Maybe I just missed that part of the presentation when you mentioned the relationship between the chili and the bird. I mean, are they
oh
symbiotical?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sir, so there's this specifically this bird I see. They said that they really eat chilies.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm not sure. They're one of these birds. I kind of forgot. I only remember it's yellow. One of them. They really have it as part of their diet. Pero in general, birds really does eat fruit, any fruit bearing um yeah, any fruit bearing na plant. But in general naman, ayun, because I observe it then within my area. We have sili labuyo behind in our backyard, and my dad complains like naunahan na naman tayo ng mga ibon. So these are very based on my experience with the site living here for how many years then, and I just want to keep the uh yung abundance ng birds because whenever I bike around the area of my village, my area is the one that has one of the biggest canopies of trees. Konti lang. It's not everywhere in the village, and somehow I want more of these species to come through. Ayun, sir.
Yeah, that's why I think you need to establish the relationship of these two, the plant and the bird,
Mm-hmm.
because
Sir.
it will enrich your project.
Yes.
It's not enough
Yeah.
that maybe they eat it. So we really need to be concrete about it.
Definitely about it. Kasi I know that avian creatures really are meant to eat peppers. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
hindi sila naaanghangan doon
Yes, they don't.
based on how they really are built. So like there are even instances where merong feed cocktail sila na ginagawa for the chickens so that yung egg na lalabas sa kanila medyo reddish and nagiging reddish yung yolk. It's because of the peppers and wala lang, share lang yung info una yan. So yung comments ko, very nice yung section na ginawa mo. It looks really nice. Looks really pretty. Maganda yung background. Maganda naka-section yung lupa. Maganda yung gradient na nilagay mo. Yung details and yung line work. Even yung graphics mo, they're all very good already at this level of being in the ArcDis 4. So I think this is I think I know I was doing less than that on the quality of work sa may boards ko, digital boards when I was on design 4. And then nag-improve ako ng design 5 and then hardcore na ako ng mga design 7. So like this one can go even further pa, like just observe mga different qualities of work and then compare mo sa may quality of work mo. Marami naman sa internet. So you could see kung ano yung pwede mo improve. Like let's say here on the onset yung pinaka-outline ng buong object, pwede mo kapalan. Yung mga ganung mga nandun ka na sa may little details na yun to be able to create very good boards. Kasi your boards are already very good, very nicely made, nice yung layout. Maganda yung pag-stagger mo na one information or one idea per sheet. Yun yung sinasabi ko dun sa iba na you don't mix it up too much. Ito, talking about the growth lang. Ito, talking about the color and what can be seen. Ito, talking about the pinaka-chili. Ito, talking about the different birds and their sound. Ito, talking about the birdhouse, di ba? So those are the different ideas and those are how you were going to tell your story, how you break it down. It's very important para rin meron kang guide on developing. Kasi ang nangyayari dito, when you make your boards, it's not really making the boards, para sa akin, it's not making the boards for the entire week. It's like 3-4 days of me making the entire story, and then I produce it before papasok sa class. Like 2-3 days before the meeting, before consultation, ine-execute ko na siya. Kaso yung story, that takes the same time as making the entire sheets yun. So, yun yung actually yung isang mas mahirap na part. And then, ayun, very nice talaga yung outputs mo. And
Really
exciting
pays, it really pays to be rich kasi she pays someone to do this for her.
Hindi!
Ah, ayun, no, naka ladybug pa siya, ganun. Tapos, ano yan, in-illustrator pa, mga ganun. Bawal i-photoshop yan, dapat illustrator yung gawa mo. Ganun sabi niya, sa binayaran niya, di ba? Anyway. So, yung sabi mo dun sa siling labuyo, actually comment ko lang on the food. Kasi, again, with the peppers, gusto ng mga ibon yung mga peppers. So, medyo generally difficult question kung yun ba yung favorite nung isa, paano yung iba ma-attract mo din yung mga ibang ibon. Anyway, mga ganun yung mangyayari. And bakit siling labuyo? Eh, marami namang different kinds of sile na meron, di ba? Is it because it's a
Actually,
plastic
Siling
sili?
Labuyo kasi was
Ganun.
also,
Mm.
I read something recently na they're actually mistaken with other chilies, yung, I forgot, bird's eye chili, na medyo sharp yung edge.
Oo,
Labuyo is medyo,
mataba siya.
hindi siya, mataba siya. And in groceries, medyo nagmi-mix sila. So, it becomes, even though it was abundant before, and it's found in wild areas,
Mm.
nagiging listed as endangered na din
Okay.
in some ways.
Mhm.
So, that's why I picked that nga, besides it's to grow here. I want to keep like conserving this certain plant na
Mhm.
we all love eating and all that. And also the birds love eating. So, ayun.
Okay. Tas yung mga birds on hitting the glass, I know that story. That's a very weird, sad story. And then, cool yung technology na nilagay nila sa glass na naka-UV, whatever yung glass, para kita ng mga ibon. So, I've heard about that too. And, I don't know how you're gonna apply it here. Baka to make the birds go in one direction. I don't know. But that's a good source of information also. Sometimes maraming information ikaw na makukuha na hindi mo naman magagamit. Like maybe that hindi mo magagamit. But it's okay. It's the point of the entire process. You're trying to find what is the best one, 'di ba? And what works for you. And then yung birdhouse, I'm just not sure about yung yan yung isang good way of developing it. But I know that it can be pushed further, like does it really have to be mga kahon?
Mhm.
Wait lang. Tumahol si Pretzel. Papalabasin ko lang siya. Wait lang. Pretzel. Mm. Ayan. So, ayan yung mga bird houses na yan. There's already a good idea of how nagsisynergize yung mga lodging places nila, kumbaga, with the sile places, di ba? So that's already, you're starting to get to mix it, but you have to develop it further. Like, does it really have to be this way na mga kahon-kahon siya? Maybe it could
Mhm.
be a little bit more organic, di ba? Like
Yeah.
how trees are, and how the trees canopies are, and how they stay there. Kasi a birdhouse is very, very napaka tao-designed, tao-centric idea of what a bird lives in, di ba? But what we're trying to build here is something that's a little bit more on the parang we try to get to the parang may pagka medyo biomimicry, more on the side of what they are used to, di ba? Kasi we are designing also for the birds, di ba? Parang mali yung, hindi naman mali, parang hindi naman, we're challenging the preconceived notion that the birdhouse is a box and that's it, di ba? So that's also something that you can take a look at and further develop, di ba? And then, like yung mga sheets later on, yung pinakita mga vertical hydroponics, ganun, ganun, ganun. Eventually, the architecture will, I wouldn't say na-evolve na gano'n, okay. But I would say na the way that you guys would be presenting the ideas and how the architecture is, how to show the details and everything, parang magiging medyo lalapit sa ganong kind of parang design, no, parang um drawing language kumbaga from you as the one who's creating the idea to into architecture. So ayun, so I think your work is very good. I really like lalo na yung graphics and ayun, marami pang room to see where the direction is and to be able to push the idea.
Thank
How much
you.
are you paying your apprentice?
Ha?
How much are you
Ako?
paying? Yeah. The one
Oh,
who did your drawings.
I feed her food. I feed myself every day.
No, you need to explore more. Don't just stop with this idea. Uh, if you can layer it with, more compatible organic ideas with what you already produce, I think it can be an impressive work. And and but I really like when you said the personal aspect of uh of your situation wherein there's a bird on top of
Mm-mm.
your window type aircon and you have allergies, etc. And that alone can already inform the separation of the program of the two spaces, the two areas. But other than that, you know, can you expand it more because that is already expected. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But although I know you have the chili idea, if you can stay within these areas of studies, well and good for as long as you're able to make it more complex in terms of thinking and process, that it generates, a more interesting architecture. Okay, because right now it gives us the obvious direction already, but it's not. I maybe from you since I know your capability, I want to be surprised. I want to be surprised with the ending. Do you get it?
Okay.
Like
Alright.
like for the others because they're starting out with this kind of methodology, it's okay for them to meet the minimum standards, just go through the process, etc. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm also looking to be wowed because I wasn't expecting it. It's the same experience that I had with Jao Timbol when he showed me, a different a very impressive um, visualization of the site section, and then it followed through the other presentation. But that is in terms of presentation, and because I don't know him that well, you know what I mean. But it's always good that as you presenting it, and all along you think that you know where this is going to, but there's a but towards probably three-fourths of the way of the presentation because um, it went to a very different turn that is logical, that makes more sense, but it was still part of the entire process. Like
Mhm.
I want to be surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Yep, find more questions to ask this.
Yeah, go. Go lang.
Okay, okay
You
lang.
need to find more. Mahirap yan, but you will get there.
Like yeah. So sige.
Legit,
Ah,
ulit a friend sa'yo. Five yata eh.
what did you say?
Wala, sir. Wala, 5 terms. Yeah, cooks. I've been under gym kasi for 5 terms. So, pinatay niya ako ilang beses na.
On the record yun.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you,
Kaya din pala
Tracy.
ang ganda na nung boards.
Ah, if you notice
He's our, ano,
some of the posts I have in Archilab Live, uh, it's her work. Some.
Like,
Okay. 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 Thank you,
okay,
Tracy.
yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Okay. Let's go to Francis Martin.
Ay,
Hi, sir.
wait mo na.
Wait lang.
Hello, Francis.
Ano? Wait. Medyo nag-lag yung tayo. Ay, ba't ayaw? Oh my gosh. Ang daming nakabukas. How do I end this? Ayaw pumunta sa... I'll just exit the meeting and then come in so that, yeah.
Sir, pwede na po share screen.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Ayan. Shaggy.
So, to start, sisimulan ko siya doon sa research. So,
Sige.
consider ko yung research ko as a big part of the plant selection process. So, so ginawa ko dito is, instead of me choosing the plant for the site, like, kung i-base ko sa benefits ng plant, tapos ayun yung i-apply ko sa site, parang in this process, kinonsult ko yung site, like, ano ba yung problems na meron sa site, yung context, yung culture. Then doon ako nag-base para magkaroon ako ng basis sa pipiliin kong plant. So first off is I tried to observe culture and human behavior. Ever since kasi dito na kami nakatira, like in the 20 years of my age, common talaga sa amin yung naglalakad from point A to point B, like pupunta sa bakery, pupunta sa palengke, or like everyday na parang errands, naglalakad lang talaga kami kasi um, limited yung tricycles dito. Tatlo lang ata meron as of now, and I think nabawasan pa ng isa dahil dun sa pandemic. And yung dito sa process na to, kinonsider ko din na good thing yung walking in a parang pandemic na context. So that's on culture and human behavior. And next is I tried to study the population and demographic. So yung median age ng 2015 is 32. Then 6 years later, inassume ko na lang na 38 yan na yung majority ng mga tao dito. Like yung median age na to, yung above nun is majority is aging na. And with the culture of walking, posibleng maging problem yun. So yung in the plant selection process, kinonsider ko na pipili ako ng plant na makakatulong dun sa mga tao na ma-preserve yung joints nila. Kasi yung common talaga yung walking dito. So yung
Munggo.
gusto ko i-preserve yung culture ng paglalakad, lalo na in a pandemic context. And last one for the research sa site. Inobserve ko yung site activity. Yung area kasi namin, residential siya pero surrounded siya ng industrial area. So meron ditong toy factory na paminsan naamoy ko yung fumes, parang mabaho na ewan. So sinama ko dito dun sa plant selection process na I need plants na mag-purify ng air. And yung dito rin sa site activities, yun nga, medyo hilly yung site namin. So if kunyari pupunta sa bakery, kailangan mo bumaba, din kapag babalik ka, kailangan mo umakyat. Then para naman sa aging na population dito sa barangay namin is posible silang mahirapan sa ganung everyday routine. So kinonsider ko din yung main consideration ko dito is yung pag-preserve nga nung dun sa walking culture and yung dun sa site activity na madumi yung hangin. So, ang napili kong halaman is yung chrysanthemum and aloe vera. Kinuha ko yung plants na to based dun sa study ng NASA na clean air study. Yung chrysanthemum is ranked number 2 and yung aloe vera is ranked 13th ata if I remember it correctly. So chrysanthemum is for an outdoor plant. It's a flowering plant. Then yung aloe vera naman is an indoor plant. Na yung gel niya is very beneficial dun sa mga taong may arthritis na posibleng yung walking culture dito na yung common, yung posible nang mag-cause yun ng arthritis. Then yung sa benefits man chrysanthemum is helpful siya doon sa aging population kasi yung meron siyang rich in potassium siya. na nakakatulong sa pag-reduce ng risk ng heart disease, stroke, arthritis, and digestive orders. So ito yung harvesting process ng both of the plants na pinili ko. It's very basic na kung tutusin, pwede siyang gawin sa normal na household if allowed. Like, enough yung yield nung plants na meron sa bahay na yun. So dito sa chrysanthemum is basically, i-cut mo lang yung flowers and buds na produce ng plants. Then, isa-sun-dry mo lang siya for 2 to 3 days until fully dry. Then, ilagay mo lang siya sa jar pagtapos. Then, after nun, pwede mo na siya gawing tea na for oral ingestion. And then sa aloe vera naman is, yung nabasa ko sa research is dapat daw i-cut siya doon near sa root. Since doon daw parang nagsisettle yung nutrients. Then, after cutting the leaf, kailangan siyang hugasan ng tubig. Then, after nung pagkahugas, kailangan mong putulin yung spine sa gilid kasi medyo spiny yung aloe vera na plant. Then, next is, ipipil mo yung top and yung bottom na layer yung leaf para ma-expose mo yung gel, which is yung parang ayun na yung pinaka-medicinal part ng aloe vera na plant. Then ilalagay mo lang siya sa jar again for like ang nabasa ko online is it can be used for topical applications or oral applications. So dito naman sa side section is ito yung plain na kinuha ko. Yung yellow na box is yung structure ko, yung plano kong gawin, yung 4-story na building. Then ito yung side section mismo. So ito yung project location sa bandang left. Then inobserve ko lang yung mga textures na posibleng mga tulong sa site. And yung side section na to is ginamit ko din dun sa pag-place ng windows dun sa sun carving para matulungan akong maaral yung context ng site. Then sa sun carving naman, tatlo yung pinili kong oras. I chose 8 a.m. Then the solar noon, which is 12:03 p.m. And the third one is 4:30 p.m. So for 8 a.m., I chose this kasi bright yung araw sa time na to pero hindi siya ganoon ka-harmful para sa mga halaman. And medyo malamig pa yung time na to kaya sa chrysanthemum kasi meron siyang requirement na temperature, like kailangan medyo malamig with bright light kaya pinili ko tong time na to. And next is sa solar noon. Yung plano kong gawin dito sa time na to is yung dun sa drying process ng chrysanthemum. Pwede kong gamitin yung time na to help in the drying process of the flowers and buds na na-harvest. Then dun sa time number 3 is dito ko plan i-place yung aloe vera. Since indoor plant siya, hindi siya masyadong kailangan ng light. Kaya dito siya parang in-associate sa oras na to. So ito yung sun carving in yung tatlong oras. Then ito na yung kinalabasan dun sa structure. So ang plan kong gawin dito is dito plan ilagay yung chrysanthemum kasi nga dito yung sa 8 a.m. Then dito sa top na part yung drying process ng flowers and buds. Then dito yung sa aloe vera. So sa models naman, ito yung standalone model nung project ko. Naglagay ako ng butas dito since it's facing the northeast kung saan malamig yung hangin. And nilagay ko siya malapit dun sa kung saan nakalagay yung mga aloe vera, like dito. Para makatulong siya dun sa Kasi yung aloe vera kasi yung laman is mostly too big. So cold weather could help in the yield of the product. Then ito na yung site model. So yun lang.
Okay. So for an initial study, when it comes to, well, I'll just put you on uh, I'll just pin you. Okay, for initial study, this is actually good. Initial study of the model, but like I said with the previous presentation, don't fall in love with it yet. But I guess it's a good starting point. And I think I commend. I think I really like your presentation even last week. The site section is also nice. It's almost resembles the one of Jao. Uh, and then when it comes to, what do you call that? When it comes to the topic in itself, I guess it needs more exploration of the idea. But I really like the narrative of how you considered people in your area, such as the aging population and how the walking culture is really popular. I think you can work on that, but I'm not sure where it will go to. That's the only problem, because I myself cannot answer that question. But when I heard you mention the requirement of the aloe vera to have a cold climate, or not climate, but a cold environment, then maybe it's just a light bulb moment, just a very small light bulb moment. Maybe you can have an architecture that sort of has a very cool interior. I don't know, like that simulate a very cool interior, and then that will also dictate a program appropriate for such a cool interior. But I don't know what it is yet. But these are the clues that you need to look at, so that you can develop a typology based on the process and the development of your study.
Okay, sir.
Sige, Kyle.
Um, hmm, um, yung plant selection process, I like how you did it. Kasi yung iba, yung narrative ng story, tas ikaw, iba yung narrative nun sa'yo. So, it's a different approach that can also be done to reason out why the plant you've chosen is such plant. So, that was interesting. Yung walking culture ni note ko dito, tas may question mark ako. Walking building, kaso wala akong idea paano yun. So, hindi yung gumagalaw yung building, kaso it's a building for walking. I don't know, but it's, di ba, but it's interesting. I don't know where it's gonna head to. Like, sabi ni Sir Jim. Yan. And because of that, nilagay ko may potential to really surprise. Kasi kung if you get to crack this open, it's really gonna be something special because it's a building for walking. What the heck? but it's one of those ideas that you can play with. It could work, it could not work, who knows. You'll only know if you experiment on it and explore on it, diba? Kaya we're doing this. And then yung dun sa may sun carving exercise, yung concern ko lang, although it was something that's nice and commended ni Sir Jim, yung concern ko lang is as much as possible, I don't want it to feel like nag-carve ka and then you just slapped on the plants so that they just are there. Parang gets mo naman yung nangyari dun, di ba? Parang
Yes,
okay,
po.
magka-carve ako dito and then now there's a space for my aloe vera and then I slap on the aloe vera. So parang yun yung as much as possible um refrain from having that type of parang evolution, di ba? It there could be another approach to it that it will grow organically. Yun. So that's why even though ang ganda-ganda ng model na ginawa mo din, ang ganda ng presentation ng model, di ba? Yun yung yung something na don't fall in love with it, mag-iiba pa yan, and that's the reason, one of the reason why it will definitely.
But don't throw away your materials. Part you need to document everything. Okay. Sorry.
Ayun, so ayan, hopefully that's helpful. So check mo pa kung paano yung mga ano na yan. Baka may ma-research ka pa sa mga walking or whatever, but it's a good direction even for the older people, yung target mo, ganun. Who knows what you could make.
Okay, Janil. Sige, thank you, Francis.
Thank you, sir.
Sige, Janil Gan.
Sino next?
Si Janil.
Daniel.
Relegi Gan.
Hello.
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 Hello, Janil.
Hey. Hi.
You can start already.
Okay, I'll share my sheets from last
Okay. So that you can
last
orient
week
Kyle.
first.
Save nyo talaga mag-rhino kayo? Bakit? Ba't ma-rhino sila?
I don't know. It was on their own, basically.
Sino nag-influence sa kanila?
Mas magaan kaysa sa SketchUp. Oh.
No, kasi ako nung kami ako
Yeah.
lang yung nag-rhino eh.
I
Tapos
told
yung
him
susunod
about
na batch parang, uy, nag-rhino yung tinry nila. Tapos ngayon kayo lahat nag-rhino. Parang,
Yeah, the
okay
older
na.
batches sort of taught us and we were freshmen pa lang. Okay, so my site is in a corner lot in front of the Kamaning Market. So okay, this is solar panel.
Ladybug na naman. Oh, di ba? Ladybug. Sige. O, nag-grasshopper pa kayo. Sige, go!
Okay, so I segregated them into different zones. So the main commercial area would be the Kamaning Public Market, and then by the intersect okay, residential behind my lot. So it's full of 1 to 2 story residential houses.
Mhm.
And I created this one zone for um, a mixed use type of housing where the second floor would be like a small house for one family and the first floor would be used for a small family business. So along that block, a lot of the houses are planned that way. So this is the pedestrian circulation, one main road in the intersection area. This one didn't reach the radius cutoff, but I thought it was very essential to note that behind the Kamaning Public Market is the Diliman Creek, and to the right is Tomas Morato Elementary School. So it's a public school. And I noted the pedestrian traffic, which due to the economic activity, there are a lot of pedestrians walking around. It's a very like walkable area. Um, okay, but at the same time, it's also a hub for like public transportation because, again, because of the commercial activity, it's where a lot of tricycles and jeeps stop to gather passengers. So these are the main areas. And I also noted the lack of green spaces. There is a line of trees behind in the governing public market, but other than that, this place is very structurally dense and there are barely any existing vegetation. So I considered the place the different economic activities that happen within the area, which are more or less consistent. So the Kumaning public market includes wet goods, which includes meat and vegetables. It also, but they're mainly known for selling textiles and for their tailoring services. So the mixed-use residential areas to the left, they also share the same service. So that's textile and tailoring. And this area, they mainly serve repair services, clinics, salons. Okay, here. And one of the main features with the area, I consider it as a weakness and sort of something to improve on is the traffic congestion because this area does not have proper parking spaces. The only available parking space is in front of the Kamaning market. So all the other commercial spaces nearby, cars usually double park, and you have to note the different public transportations that also stop by the area. So there's really traffic congestion within that intersection. And since it's a corner lot, it has high visibility towards the market, the intersection, and the in general just the intersectional activity. Okay, I think that's it for the last week.
Mhm.
Okay, so for my side section, um, this side section, I decided to focus on the inner workings of the public market. I wasn't able to illustrate. I was really supposed to illustrate each and every like stall since they vary. So it includes vegetables and meats, mostly textile services. They also serve tailoring and handcrafted local products inside the market. And this, towards the right, is the residential commercial structure. So these also include the tailoring services, salons, and repair services. And by the rear, this is my lot, and by the rear is um, private residential areas. So that's the site massing.
Nakikita ko
Um, I think, and one reason why I chose this site is because when I was a kid, I would always like this isn't near exactly like around my area, but it's somewhere I would go to as a child most of the time, like with my parents to buy um to like buy in the market and usually for textiles. So
Nakita ko
that's
ang
one
chat
of the
nyo eh.
um so okay.
Go
Binablock
Janelle!
ako ni
Go
Jericho.
Janelle!
What's
Hoy, si Lance
happening?
din. Kasama si Lance dyan.
Binabackstab na ako ni Matcha.
Hindi, grabe
Okay.
sir. Hindi. Sinusupport ko lang si
Okay,
Jan.
so for my research sheets, um, I based the choosing of my plant on the activity in the market. But then last term I was also part of Sir Jim's studio. So this was something I already worked on, the abaca, which is a banana plant. I decided to change my site to this in front of the public market because I think it's would be a much more interesting narrative for the community. So this is a plant breakdown. Um, I'll, I'll show you later, but each part would be a useful serves a function for other like products. So these are the leaves. This is the crown. Each leaf is approximately 0.2 to 0.3 meters wide and 1 meter long. This is the fruit and the heart. Wait, I just saw Kumi. Okay, never mind. The fruit and the flower are they come together and they grow from the pseudo stem, but these if this appears, it's a sign of maturity of the plant already. Um, so this is the pseudo stem, a cross section, and the vertical section of the root area. And the pseudo stem will be of use in my further research. So this is the stages of growth for the abaca plant. We have the seedling, and as a seedling, they're preferably grown in nurseries or satellite gardens. And next stage, we have the sapling. Then we have when they start growing leaves that may be of use. So by this time, by the stage of the plant, they can be harvested already. And as they grow mature, from 15 to 40 years old, they become before the fruit arrives. They're harvested for their famous uses, which I'll get into later. And these are the general planting requirements. It was specified by the fiber industry of the Philippines that planting abaca must be spaced out at least 1.5 meters, but they usually prefer or suggest 2.5 meters space from each other. And some of the general requirements include having moist and well-drained loamy soil, and as compared to other banana plants, where I forgot to mention their fruits are inedible, while other banana plants have require full sun, heavy sun. This type of banana species thrives off of rainy seasons, and since they grow in rainforests in Catanduanes, and they don't prefer having full sun and they rather be shaded. They're usually co-planted with coconut trees. Average temperature is 20 to 29 degrees Celsius. Um, there was one research that said that they preferably grow on sloped environments. And the basis is because they originated from Catanduanes. where the Mayon volcano is and where rainforests are predominant. That's the type of environment where they would thrive in. And transplants or mainly like planting these seeds in general are preferable during the rainy season. So that's from starting June. And as I said a while ago, they grow in satellite nurseries before they're transplanted into the field. And they get harvested every 3 to 8 months. Okay, so I researched previously about the fiber extraction process. So that includes first removing the leaves from the vegetative plant, and then cutting off the corm here, tumbling, and then that's when they start tuxing, which means that they separate each sheath for in order to strip them into fibers, and then they're dried and then bundled for exportation or for transport into other places. So these are the current uses for Manila hemp or abaca. So that includes handcrafts, which handbags, hats, clothing, woven clothing, furniture, mats, and right now even face masks. And um, most of since these fibers are taken from the false stem, um, there comes also like waste fibers, which are from like the leaves and other parts of the plant. So they're made into like papers. So that's banknotes and tea bags and decorative papers. They're also used for fish nets and marine uses because they're very saltwater resistant. And right now, from what I know, there's this one um, business that pioneered the Abaca acoustic panel, which is a very sustainable alternative to sound absorption. So other properties: solar resistance, saltwater resistance, tensile strength, buoyancy, combustibility, and flexibility. It's considered one of the strongest natural fiber. Okay, so um, along with my general fiber extraction process, I dove into using these fibers to create um, per textile production. So with the context of my site, how could I'll explain this further later, but in general, like how since the site produces textile and is known as one of the um, textile centers in NCR, how would this vicinity become a more sustainable um, have like a more sustainable production for their goods and services. So I based these off of the um, Filipino tribes, which date back to um, ancient times, and they're a good source for practicing sustainable um, textile production. So that includes the coarse fibers are rubbed and air dried, and then they're knotted together, and then they're dyed um, in a traditional boiling method. Um, and then they're rinsed, and then weaved, and then beaded, and then burnished. So along with the dyeing process, I um, conceptualized on the idea of sustainability within the vicinity. And I think it could go further from just um, applying a more sustainable way of producing textiles, which could help like the cycle, make a closed cycle in the community where um, especially since the market also provides wet goods, and with wet goods comes perishable products. So um, agri products which or have not been sold or have rotted, they could be used for dye in the textile production. So this was my research last term, but I think these are very relevant to Filipino, like available Filipino crops, which may be turned into natural dye. So that includes like achuete, tawa-tawa, which is a type of common weed, gabi or taro, coconut husks, talisay, which is a tree, and tayum or indigo. And this is the general dye extraction process. I think this is very important to bring up because the abaca industry in the country, it pioneered pioneered the abaca production worldwide. So it really originated from Catanduanes Island. And from the 1500s, it was already um, a source for cloth. And by this stretch of time, it was used for rope making, and it was transplanted into other countries like Central America and Ecuador. And today, Philippines and Ecuador are one of the primary abaca producers, which means that 87% of the world's abaca produces from the Philippines, and um, 111 million dollars were produced for the exportation of abaca alone. And with that comes the employment of 1.5 million Filipinos. So with that in mind, like the abaca industry is very relevant, and I think there is an opportunity for the cultivation of this very loved crop in especially in the NCR. My solar carving. With that in mind, I for my solar carving, I based it off of the general plant requirements for abaca. And so that includes referring to the summer solstice because that starts in June, which is also the rainy season in the Philippines, which is preferable for the abaca plant. And then having the habagat winds as one of the primary factors also because um, it also occurs during along June, and um, it's hot and humid, which is really preferable for the abaca. And another side factor is the research that I found on the growing on like sloped areas. So with that, I chose the summer solstice 8 a.m. and the summer solstice 10 a.m. These two um, created incisions all the way through the building because these are the optimal planting times for plants in general. So with these incisions, these slopes were made. So I did not have any like program or whatever coming up with these, but looking at it, these could be possible opportunities for vertical farming where the slopes could be used for the vegetative abaca plants. And I chose I also added the winter solstice as an extra 10 a.m. because I wanted to sort of make the center into an open space, since it's whatever the program will be, it's advocates for like a an immersive experience for the community, considering there's the residents and a school nearby. How could they come as a community? And considering that 10 a.m. is usually like opening hours where pedestrian activity is most active, so that would be a great addition to the um, future program. And I chose the summer solstice 3 p.m. Not necessarily to make like any incisions, but it's to show that with since 3 p.m. is the hottest time of the year in summer solstice, having that heat would risk the lives of the abaca plant. So I wanted to, if potentially this would be the placement of the abaca, the 3 p.m. sun would not interfere. And then 5 p.m. to show um, afternoon light that is suitable for plants again. So since this is by the rear, and since it's a corner lot, it would be accessible and not blocked by any residing structures. And so this back area would be preferable for one of any of the fiber extraction processes, which include like drying and or even like the nursery where um, the seedlings are often shaded. And then I vaguely included the habagat winds. Since this area is very dense, it's not really it doesn't have any turbulent winds, but with the consideration of the creek nearby, um to the southwest, it would be um sort of a great addition to the venturi effect, but it wouldn't necessarily produce turbulent winds, since, as like I said, it's a very congested area, but it would be uh, slightly beneficial for the growth of the abaca plants. So yes, that's it.
Okay. I think when it comes to the sun carving, it's the most comprehensive in terms of the plant or the plant. Uh, I'm not saying fine that no the form will be final already, but it's something that we can consider as basis later on. But again, it's not set in stone yet. But the way you considered the propagation of the abaca plant in the sun carving is actually very valuable, probably when you develop this project later on. But when it comes to the abaca itself, I'm just curious. The market, I'm not familiar. It's Kamuning. It's along. Is it along EDSA?
No, it's along Tomas Morato
Is it the
in
place
Quezon
where you buy the
City.
barong like that?
Yeah, they have a lot of tailoring services for like cultural products.
Is it the barong? Isn't it the barong made of a baka? Is it? I'm
I'm
not.
not necessarily sure, but then um from what I know, like Kamaning is not really known for like sustainable use of textiles. They're just generally like a tailoring service,
Yeah.
wet
Yeah.
market area.
Okay. So that's why you are gearing towards the sustainable route. Tama ba?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you can look into the barong barong stuff because I know that it is a dominant um, feature of the place that they have. I think people go there for just for the barong, and I don't know yet, but it's just a suggestion. But if it's something that is related to the abaca fiber, then it might be something worth looking at.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure yet. Um, yeah, Kyle, do you have any comments?
Um, sorry, nag-off ako ng camera kasi nagpapanik ako. Dahil 10:30, tas
Mm-hmm.
open yung US markets. Tas medyo wild kasi ngayon. If, yung something important for Arky is to be, aware of what's happening in the global arena. So if you have any idea about the GameStop shenanigans, yun, kasama ako dun sa so medyo if you get to read about it, it's nice to be updated on those things. So okay, my comments are they're really really nice diagrams, okay? Yung section, I really like it too. I think yung section nakalagay dito. Ang isang comment ko dun sa may site nung yung you were identifying which one's the residential, yung ganun-ganun.
Mm-hmm.
It came off to me na medyo bland yung color. Not that I wanted a color mismo to identify the type, but parang after the third slide, nung nag-iba yung kulay, dun ko na-realize na, ay, kinukulayan niya pala yung building type. No?
I think
So,
it's
meron,
the screen.
so
Yeah.
dahil dun sa may pag-react ko na yon, may na-realize ako na baka may mali lang dun sa may diagram of the way it's read. You know, if you want to go monochrome, baka
Mm-hmm.
yung outline mismo ng mga shapes mo nag-iiba para makita na ito yung hina-highlight. Ito yung hina-highlight.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense? Or
Yeah.
or kung gusto mo pa rin na gray pa rin siya the same color, meron siyang hatch na mga dots or mga X kunwari or something like that or mga
Yeah.
plus. You know, those are just a little bit of the things that I would want to help you develop kasi these are very invaluable things when you have your own practice or when you get absorbed in your family's practice or whatever, 'di ba? They are things that you can help drive the way the quality of work that people have, 'di ba? So it's the thing that's why we do these things so that we can learn from them and we get the eye to be able to help others to improve them, 'di ba? And yun na, that's how you make your team, di ba? Oh, galing, di ba? Anyway, they're very nice. So, interesting yung Abaca. Yung isang nakita ko na wala dun sa iba, yung bundling ng Abaca. Di ba? Yung dun sa
Mm-hmm.
process. Actually, yung
Mm-hmm.
comment ko pala dun sa may diagrams nung process, grabe, mga drawings na ginawa mo yung mga drawings na yun. Grabe, ako lalagay lang ako ng images niyan eh. Tingnan mo yan. Lalagay lang ako ng pictures niyan eh. Tapos ikaw, you did it that way. That's already
Yeah.
very commendable to be able to tell the story. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
reading the text or whatever, but being able to do that to impart part of the process, di ba? You already did the extra step to make a certain branding in your presentation. And that's really something very commendable na, eventually, parang it's part of your sensibilities when you try to do it that way na eh. Anyway, moving on. Interesting yung isang point na sinabi mo about slopes.
Mm-hmm.
Like in your sun carving, isa lang yung major slope na nakita ko. Kaso yung sinabi mo dun, slopes. So how could
Oh,
slopes,
sorry.
a lot of slopes, affect your architecture? I mean, it's an interesting point of view, di ba?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yung we always want to question these things na, what if we put more? What could it be,
Mm-hmm.
di ba? The bundling yun, could it be part of the architecture, di ba? Pagka, nagiging wall ba yan or whatever, di ba? Parang pagka pumunta ka sa warehouse ng isang certain object na sinustore,
Mm-hmm.
parang you're in a different world, di ba? And that's something
Yeah.
that you could do in your architecture naturally. Hindi mo pinipilit na lagay yung abaka doon para magmukhang abaka, but it's part of the entire process that's happening in your architecture that creates that effect, di ba? And that's something beautiful if you would be able to apply it correctly, di ba? So, yun yung mga things na parang little tweaks that you can learn from this class and you would be able to apply it in architecture that would have a big impact, 'di ba? And you're creating new architecture, 'di ba? May nakagawa na ba nun? Oh, 'di ba? That's already new architecture. Kaya this is yung ano ba to, yung tinatawag natin na creative typologies is very interesting because we're trying to make something new here, 'di ba? We're questioning what already exists, 'di ba? Parang we could always make a building, you get the time savers, yung standards of buildings, 'di ba? Building typologies. And then tignan mo lang tapos apply mo na yung plan eh. Yun na yung architecture, but you're building for something else talaga entirely eh. 'Di ba? Each project is different on its own. Each client is different. You're building for a specific client. So, meron ba yan sa time saver standards on how to build a house for that specific person, 'di ba? Wala. So that those are the things that some of the things of the many things that you can get from here that you're able to apply in your future practice. So maski sasabihin na ano lang yun, DE lang yan. Ha, it's like favorite example ko kay sinasabi ni Sir Jim, which I really really applaud yung analogy na to. Just imagine guys, what you're doing here, nagde-design kayo ng Formula 1, okay? Yung technology sa Formula 1, nagti-trickle down dun sa may Honda na binebenta nung yung basic car that you could get, 'di ba? That is the trickling down of the technology. But you can't make sabihin natin hindi ka pwede gumawa ng Vios, tapos gagamitin mo yung technology ng Vios para gumawa ng Formula 1, 'di ba? It's more of the other way around. So you think of it as this entire thing. You are making this Formula 1 thing, and then this Formula 1, meron yung mga ideas that could trickle down, that could go to the pragmatic sense na of the architecture, na on the buildable sense. But yun lang, don't be afraid to go all out first, 'di ba? Kasi that is experimenting, 'di ba? If it doesn't work, your experimentation is a success. You learned something, 'di ba? So yun. So very good work. Yan, very commendable. I really like the section. I like the presentation. Baka a little bit lang offline weights.
Language, okay.
Technical, but yun, marami namang references on the net to be able to improve it. And ginamitan mo ng Illustrator, very good. ArcDes 5 ako, first time nag-Illustrator. Right now, make 2D, export. Ay hindi, ano pala, i-layer mo pa siya ng different line weights, tapos export, tapos change mo na yung line weights, change mo na yung line
Yeah.
type. So, yan. So, very good. So exciting sa mga work nyo. Actually, excited ako. Sir Jim, pagka natapos yung gusto ko rin makita yung mga, parang maganda makita yung from the start, yung baby, kung paano naging nag-born. Tapos gusto ko makita kung paano.
Yeah.
Excited ako dun sa end part.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just curious how you're going to introduce a program, Janelle, on the next admission. How you're going to develop this. So that will be a challenge, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Bea. Is it Bea's turn?
Yeah, okay. Even before I forget, Kat says hi.
Oh,
I was there kanina, so. Okay, since you haven't seen this yet, maybe I could start by...
stop share pala,
Oh, it's not
Janelle.
so. Wait. Oh, it works. Okay. So, since you haven't seen this yet, I'll just show you my site and introduce it to you. So, I live in Ayala Labang village, so that's in the south in Muntinlupa City. And in my village, there are actually a total of 16 parks, I think, within the village. And I didn't choose my house because I wanted to choose a place that kind of had the potential to bring a lot of people to the area and also the animals within the area, because Ayala Labang is kind of a bird sanctuary. So I kind of wanted a space that had both like abundant of trees and like a water source. So that's why there's a creek on the side, as you can see. And so, like you could see here, the access ways where there's a road in these areas, and then a bike trail, which I found very interesting about the site, because in the site it's actually located in a park, but then it's an empty space within the park, which I chose near a senior park, and there's a bike trail that connects to all the other parks, which I like because there's a lot of flow within the area, and I wanted to maximize the activity and kind of bring that into the structure that I'm going to produce. And so yeah, this is the sun path and wind direction. And so yeah, I wanted to show you this, the noise and activity. So then yeah, and there's a senior park, residential homes more on the front of the site, and then behind it there's actually the village office and also the clinic. So then in creating my site, okay, I'll actually bring you to my research here, my section site. I wanted to kind of show their abundance of trees on the entire place because there's no structure actually next to it and right behind it. So it's pretty interesting because um there's a lot of open space and it will get direct sunlight whenever like throughout the day actually, yeah. And so this is the other section side where I show the road and the sidewalk and actually a bike trail, and that's how deep the creek is. And a lot of birds actually stay in that area with next to the creek because there's abundant water and it's covered by like a canopy of branches of trees. So then within the space, there's a lot of activity for the birds and both people throughout the day. Yeah. And so, yeah, actually, since it's next to a bike trail, the village really wanted to show how there are a lot of variety of birds. So then they actually made an infographic next to the bike trail, which made it easy for me to get the names of the birds. So these are all the birds within the area. And what I found really cool was next to my site, there are actually a lot of the white birds, called the little egret. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but then it's really interesting because within the village, those birds actually show up in a few places only, and next to my site, that's where they actually show up often. So yeah, I wanted to show that as well. And so, since I mentioned earlier that my site was next to a senior park and a clinic, I kind of wanted to create something that showed like a kind of harmony and in making it perpendicular to both sides, making it this side, this one, like in the theme of health and vitality. So then I wanted to choose a plant that was kind of, since it's next to a park and it'll be exposed to a lot of people, a lot of activity, I wanted a plant that was both meaningful and functional. So meaningful in a sense that I wanted something that was nostalgic to the Filipino food culture, that people would be able to, pick um, vegetables from and bring it to their homes, or even because it's next to a park, pick it there and then probably cook it on the side because people actually have barbecues next in the park next to it. So then it'll be really interesting and also functional because since we're working with architecture, I really wanted to choose a plant that wouldn't really make me very I don't know, hindered in terms of art, like designing and architecture. So I wanted to choose like a vine plant that would both be able to be manipulated by a design and at the same time influence the design as well, because there are certain limitations such as the like the length of how the vine can grow or how far the roots can be apart from, and something like that. Because with the ampalaya plant, yeah, it's really nice because okay, here I show the parts of the plant, and the roots say that the depth can occupy 15 to 20 centimeters, and that's not really that long. So then, in a sense, that these plants can actually stack up, and I actually grow these at home, so then I know that they're easy to plant and easy to stack in even basins are um, that have like a few holes, because it says here also that it's not this one, and this one actually it's flood tolerant. So then even though there's not a lot of flow within the water, it still survives. So that I like that aspect of the plant because it will be able to survive even though it's not properly cared for, and it won't die easily, which I find a very important part in creating structures for the architecture and stuff like that. So then also for the plant, it actually needs full sun exposure. So then I'll explain later in my sun and wind carving how I want to kind of expose the sun within the space, even though there's a lot of trees within the area. So then I wanted to be able to um, maximize the sun within the area. So then here I explained how the vine can be used as a material and not just as a plant that is decorative within the space. Because I remember Sir Jim saying that whenever people talk about a plantita type and how people are bringing plants into their spaces, it's often used just as like a decorative item, or they just put on the side. But then having a vine plant that actually does crawl, I actually say in these plates what they do, like in a wall they can climb and attach itself, because in the parts that of the ampalaya, as I said, in this part, I not this one. Then in these parts, there's actually tendrils that attach itself into like a wire frame or poles or something like that. Anything it can grab onto, even a tree. So then I like that aspect that could be used for as a material. And then roofing, even because even though there's tendrils, it does attach and can just crawl on a flat surface, which I like. And um see, like, because I see how ampalaya can actually climb and grow and still like hang on itself, like as though it's a decorative aspect to the architecture, since even though it just climbs to the walls, it can still seep through, like kind of seep through the frame and, you know, expose itself to the people that go within the structure. So I like that part. And so yeah, having it both used as a wall and a roofing, it can be used as both, because it's a very flexible and easy to manipulate material, quote unquote, plant, because it's, yeah, vines. And um since it is like this, it'll be kind of easy to create a sort of architecture that is influenced by being within a park and being next to a bunch of trees, and at the same time not limit itself to a certain shape because of a, like, I don't know, because like trees, they need like a certain amount of space within like a diameter. So that's what I like about this plant, and that's why one of the reasons why I chose it. So then this is my site. I don't know this one yet. So this is my wind and sun carving, actually. um, so I chose the times 9 o'clock and around 12 noon and 3 o'clock, because those are the times that I found were exposed the most sun within the space. So then, as you can see here, they actually show different angles, sorry, of the site. And I wanted to like kind of slice like this triangular shape and create sort of entrances and windows and even a sun tunnel that would allow sun to enter within the space and kind of spread throughout the entire interiors. So then for the 9 and 3 o'clock area, I decided to actually slice um, the rectangular shape like vertically and kind of um, it's like a cake or something. And then so it would be like entrances and windows, and um, where the sun would be able to pass through and kind of go through the entire space. Since it's not really the hottest and the brightest time of the day, I wanted to be a bigger space and still allow people to like be functional. So it won't just be a window, but a space that could be entered into. And then for the solar noon of the area, that was around 12 noon, where I chose to make it, instead of a sliced portion of the shape, I wanted to make it a sun tunnel where sun can be directly exposed to the center and kind of like pierce itself through the entire structure and still be spread throughout the interior as well. And so that's yeah, that's the shape of everything. Um, for the wind carving, I kind of wanted it to be, what's that term again you used, Kyle? I forgot, but then that's what I'm using.
Venturi effect.
Yeah, that one where it's like a small hole from the exterior, and then it kind of speeds up the wind within the interior of the space. And so because there's actually the plant actually uh multiplies or kind of fruits through the use of wind, because I know different types of plants um I don't know, I forgot what it's called, but then fruit in a different way. Like it depends on the type of plant, whether it's the cause of bees or butterflies. In this case, it's actually wind. That's a major that plays a major role in having the plant fruit. So then I wanted the wind to be like sped up and be maximized within the interior as well. And since I had like a sun tunnel at the center of the structure, I wanted to connect that with the wind and make it multifunctional, where since the wind kind of circulates within the space, I wanted it to be able to exit like through that area, since it promotes proper circulation and ventilation. So yeah. And I created this site model. So, oh, sorry. So this is how it looks like from like the model. And
So
so I kind
clean.
of showed,
Tingnan mo naman yung
I
kanto.
showed
Oh my
the
God.
views from the site. So then, yeah, this is from the street, Maria Cristina Street. I forgot to mention, but yeah, it's actually not as tall as some of the houses, because in Ayala Labang they really want to maximize the ability to create low-rise buildings within the area, so that the views aren't blocked and everything. That's why a lot of the um, public areas of the village, they're at most 2 floors. So that's why this area is actually 2 floors. Um, yeah. And then the next one. So yeah, I created this as well. Oops. Yeah. So then you could see the sliced portions of the. I think this one's the 9. Yeah, this one's the 9 a.m. part, and then I don't know if you could see that, but then it's kind of like a mini entrance into the space. So I like that aspect of how this form was carved into, and yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Anong material ginamit mo dun sa model? Matte board ba yan?
Oh, I used foam boards, PVC board, and wood, and Manila paper. Yeah, Manila paper.
Pinaka-building mismo, foam board. Oh.
PVC.
It's so clean. Ang linis nung...
Thank you. I had to do it like twice.
It's really nice that you are just like I think was it Joe or Francis who used different materials to express different sensation
Bigyan
on
ng texture
film.
si
I
Jao
think
yata.
it was Jao. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's really good that
That's
you
also
have
very
ability,
clever.
no?
Very
Even myself, I am not really into this, but it's good that you guys are. So yeah, and then as for the topic, which is the bitter melon and um, creating an architecture out of it, I think you are in the same stage as a Janelle when it comes to thinking of an appropriate program that will help
Mhm.
develop that idea. Because right now the idea of the bitter melon is just something that you just hang there, and then it hasn't really expanded to an idea such as the one that Jericho thought of. Like, although he hasn't really concretized the idea of creating a
Yeah.
sanctuary for birds and then that lipstick plant, etc. Somehow, the idea of the place, which is Binondo, with all those noise, it already generated a morphology or a form wherein it controls and manage noise. So they can have something else like another program at the topmost part where
Yeah.
it's not commercial. So that that stage gives you clues how you can develop a program or an activity, etc. So many of you, while the presentation was really excellent, um, but when it comes to the creative process in generating the program and then eventually the architecture, we still need to push ourselves a little more. But the direction of the bitter melon is actually okay. It's just a matter of how to better expand it because
Yeah,
I'm also
mahina.
trying to think how to develop it to help you, but right now I couldn't think of any, but I'm sure along the way you'll be able to uh, come up with something.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
difficult yung pinili mong topic na ano. May ganyan na mga may iba may talagang mahirap na topics eh. May
And then if you
comics.
notice, Tracy picked a she also picked the bird, but I had to question about the chili pepper. Chili pepper ba? Was I stealing
Yeah,
chili
chili.
pepper?
Chili na buyo.
If it's really related. You pick the bird, the agate, which is also very interesting. And then try to keep in mind the relationship of the different topics, how you can mesh them together fluidly,
Yeah.
so it doesn't feel forced or contrived. So just smooth flowing, just like see Jericho, like he was talking about the lipstick plant, then even the site, he was able to mesh all of these things together. But we have yet to see
Yeah.
how it evolves towards the end. Okay, so Kyle, go
Yeah.
naman.
Yeah. Kaya yung critique ko sa kanya medyo, hindi naman sasabihin na technical side, but it's really more of the design part na kasi parang yun na yung nire-refine na yung design ng idea niya eh. Nandun siya,
Yeah.
nakapak siya sa stage na yun. So, for you, ang comment ko, ayan, grabe yung model na yan. Yung wind and light
Nice.
na combination, it was nice for you to mention that. And then I just had the thought here, yan yung mga nangyari pagka nagda-notes. I just had the thought here na wala lang, just to say it. You can use the sunlight to heat up an area in the building, to heat up the wind
Yeah.
inside, be able to flow hot air and cold air, ganun, ganun, ganun. So, wala lang. And then, yung time na pinili mo, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 p.m. But it was on the winter solstice, I see. So,
Yeah,
if
summers. Forgot to
generally
mention that.
if it's generally kasi on the entire whole year, rather than isang tunnel yan, parang magiging funnel-like siya on top. Yun yung magiging implication sa may architecture mo. Yung sa sun
Okay.
card,
Yeah.
yun lang, just share lang na just saying dun sa may idea na yan. Okay, yung isang idea mo yung the wall and the roofing, tapos sinulat ko, ang nahiya pa, hindi pa ginamit yung floor, di ba? So it's something na parang it's another thought na you don't
Yeah.
limit yourself na parang isipin mo na, hindi naman kasi pwede apakan yun eh, kaya ayoko gawin na floor eh. Paano kung yung mga ibon nandun yun yung floor ng ibon? Parang, I mean,
Yeah.
it you don't stop yourself from that yung sa question.
I actually
Very
forgot to mention, like
yeah.
I remember, I forgot to mention the relationship of the birds and the ampalaya, which I actually like was reminded of, like when you mentioned that. Because ampalaya is actually grown on tendrils that are like have a fixed distance within itself. I remember
Yeah.
how birds really like to stay on trees or branches that are really close to each other and not trees that have like branches that are really far apart from each
Yeah.
other, since they like to, instead of fly, they just jump on the next branch or something
Oh,
like that. So that's why I liked having something like an ampalaya vine that kind of forces you to have like stilts or whatever that are close to each other, because birds do enjoy that as well.
yeah.
So I just remember that because they'd actually jump on those things or something. So yeah, they would use it as a floor. I forgot about that.
Since ikaw pinili mo, it's a vine type of plant, it was also an interesting thought for me, how the architecture evolves through time. Because mabavine up yan. So I was thinking,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, baka presentation-wise sa may future, if yun yung isang exploration ng study mo, how it ages through time when it's new and then when it's partially grown, and then when it's fully grown, di ba, the entire architecture changes talaga, di ba? And then
Yeah.
you develop further the vininess of the vine. Mga ganun. It's really emphasizing on the characteristics that you have researched. Kaya yun yung parang it sounds weird but it's actually the point of it. Yun.
Yeah.
It's also another bird project. So I've noted that it's very interesting to see how it differs from the other bird projects. So I'm very interested to see that when you guys get to the finish line for this design class, which you all will, I don't doubt it. And then sabi ko, ang happy they don't brand their boards with red. Kasi yung batch namin po mga may red, tapos ako hindi na ako nag-red sa branding ng boards ko.
Meron dito,
Kasi yung branding
very
ko very black.
lang.
I love white.
Yeah, very white ang batch nila. Walang kulay. Yung pinaka-red na nakita ko kay Jen.
You haven't seen Lance, last week presentation of Lance, it's all red. And then he said,
Oh my God.
Jericho.
Ako nagpauso sa amin blue.
Siyempre, sir, Chinese red dapat.
Sote. Ay, Sir Jim,
Keeping
ano,
the brand.
after mag-present ni, sino yung last one? Si Adris. Adrius.
Yes,
Pwede ako mag-share lang ng, quick lang, mga 5 minutes lang, share ko yung ilang boards ko nung thesis para pakita ko lang sa kanila. Para may, parang, okay, ganun. Anyway, ayun yung comments ko. Actually, very, very good and very impressed ako across the board. Even
Thank
if,
you.
like,
let's go to Idris first. Okay, kay Jennifer. Kay Bea pa. Akala ko
last,
all na eh.
Yeah, last one pa. Kasi yun, I'm generally, I like yung mga questions that would rise up and ganda ng mga quality of work of yung mga yan, mga boards na ganyan, no? Grabe kayo. Anyway, ayan.
Yeah, okay.
Idrius, are you ready?
Gising pa ba?
Is Idris around? You can share it. Sige lang. We are waiting for you.
Unahan kita. Di joke lang. Ano ba yung meron ako dito? Plant-based din yung ko eh. ArcDes 2 ko eh. With Rafi.
Okay, magsimula po tayo sa brief, ito mo, dito muna po sa last week. Ay, sorry, mali.
Is your camera on, Idrius?
Ako.